Let's jump in. We're in the middle of a message series called The Jesus Way, and we're talking about what it means, what it looks like to be a disciple, or we've said, what's the word we've called a disciple? An apprentice, right? What's it look like to be an apprentice of Jesus Christ? At the heart of being an apprentice of Jesus Christ, there are three goals. So, be with Jesus, be like Jesus, and next week we'll talk about the third one, which is do as Jesus did. Okay, so this morning we're going to focus on the becoming like Jesus part of that heart. And in Luke chapter 6, Jesus shares what is probably the shortest parable. Okay, it's just 2 verses. Jesus says this, Luke 6:39, he says, "Can the blind guide the blind? Won't they both fall into a pit?" Now, Jesus, of course, he's talking about the religious leaders of his day, the rabbis, if you will, who are really blind to what's really important. Unfortunately, there are some blind disciples out there who are following blind rabbis or blind teachers, okay? Even in these days. Hopefully none of us, right? But look at verse 40. Jesus says this. He says, "A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like his teacher." Now, just a few things I want to point out here. One, the whole point of apprenticeship is not to just know the Bible or to even know about the Bible. Okay? It's to become like our teacher, to become like our rabbi, our master. Okay? So, apprenticeship is all about becoming like our rabbi. Number 2, it takes training. Notice Jesus says when someone is fully trained, which means that somebody could be what? Partially trained, right? Somebody could be we could be partially trained. I wonder how many Christians are really just partially trained. We want to become like Jesus, we've got to be fully trained. It doesn't happen automatically. And number 3, I want you to notice it takes time. It doesn't just automatically happen, okay? So if I'm an apprentice to Jesus, and my goal is to be with Jesus, and then to become like Jesus, then there is something really at stake here, and that is, and this is huge, the problem is I might have to change. In order to become like Jesus, I most likely need to make some major changes in my lifestyle to become like Jesus. Are you with me? Be with Jesus, done. I have Jesus at the top of my head. That's great. That's Monday morning stuff for me. But come Monday afternoon, we might be talking a different story, right? For some of us, it might require some major changes in our lifestyle, like this radical overhaul of our entire person from the inside out to become like Jesus. Really, the New Testament uses the word transformation. 2 Corinthians 3:18, Paul says, "We all, with unveiled faces, are looking as in a mirror at the glory of the Lord, at Jesus, and are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory." Okay, so it's a process. We're being transformed. That phrase for being transformed comes from the Greek word, you probably know this, metamorphosis, right? So think about that, the change that happens when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. That's a huge process. Huge process of transformation. The question is this kind of change possible in our lives when it comes to looking like Jesus, being like Jesus? And before you jump in and say, "Oh yeah, that's possible," before you just slow down for a second and think about that. Is this kind of radical, from the inside out transformation in our lives possible? That we could look like Jesus, that we could be like Jesus, that we could become like Jesus? And if so, how? How is that? Well, the key to transformation is really found in spiritual formation. Spiritual formation. How am I growing in the Spirit? What's that look like? Dallas Willard defines spiritual formation this way. He says it's in the Christian tradition, it's a process of increasingly being possessed and permeated by the character traits of Jesus as we walk in the easy yoke of discipleship with Jesus, our teacher. Now, we said a couple weeks ago that we're all disciples of something or someone. We're all being shaped into something or someone. And the question is, who or what am I an apprentice of, and what am I being shaped into?